Station 101 Leland Live local FM radio as we take care of business literally on this Thursday. First Partners Bank, kind of a new segment for us that we're doing on Thursday nights. We hope you can sit back on your way home and learn a little something with these various segments brought to you by good friends at First Partners Bank. First Partners really just believes in educating people about all aspects of business and success. And so they do things like this show and a seminar we're going to tell you about later coming up next week. It's free to everybody to come out and learn some things. And we're privileged tonight to have a couple of good folks in the studio for a few minutes here. Charles Wilkinson. Charles is a 22-year veteran doing human resources. I got one of my kids, Charles, that wants to do that. Would you advise going into human resources right now?
Absolutely.
You told me when we got set up, business is pretty good. Government's kind of helping you. They're scrambling the eggs right now, aren't they?
Business is good.
And what do? You just sort out problems for people and hiring and firing and benefits and all that.
We basically do. We're basically a large corporate HR department. We work with small businesses that don't have an HR department and larger companies that do. We just supplement their staff with project work.
Yep. And so if you work for a large enough company, you are either have been to your HR person, you really depend on that person to understand everything with your health benefits and your retirement benefits. And we talk about a lot of that stuff on the show.
Absolutely. And a lot of risk management. So many things we do today, it touches on legal elements and compliance. There's so many government regulations. So you have to almost be an attorney.
And so you need professional advice to keep that so you don't step off and do something inappropriate or outside the bounds. There's so many places we can go with this tonight, Charles. One of the things I wanted to talk to you about is the good old process of hiring and firing. I mean, we do it around here. We have to – sometimes people come and people go, and we've got opportunities around here. We've got clients and advertisers that are doing that too. But you really, on both sides of that equation, as the boss, as the employer, there's some – areas you just need to stay away from, I guess, or questions you just can't even ask nowadays.
Oh, absolutely. You know, it's so risky, but it's such an important endeavor. If you're a business, finding the right people for the right jobs is so critical to business. And if you're looking for a position, if you're unemployed or you're looking to leave a position, you want to make a good decision. You don't want to be viewed as a resume. You have a resume that's got a lot of job hopping on there. So you want to make a good decision, land somewhere that's going to fulfill your career goals, so you can be there for a while and hopefully retire. If you're a business, there's so much pressure on finding the right person. We see statistics where the cost of a bad hire is anywhere from 6 months to a year's worth of salary. It could be $25,000 to $50,000. And of course, the higher the level position, the greater the consequences of a bad hire: damaged public relations and employee morale and just all sorts of things. In this kind of business environment that we're in right now, do employers have the upper hand because there's so many people looking for positions, looking to move up, but then again, you hear people in business say, I just can't find help. I can't find the people I'm looking for. Who's got the advantage right now? Well, I think businesses do, because businesses are starting to hire. We're seeing more and more recruiting activity, and I think that that puts them in an advantage situation. And of course, one thing that we see so often is a mistake with employers is they're focused on hiring the right applicant and not necessarily the right employee. And there's a big difference sometimes where you've got a perfect resume in front of you. And in our employee handbooks and policy manuals, we see language all the time that says our hiring decisions are based on qualifications and experience and not on any protected category. And so often, fit is the most important thing. They may have the education credentials, the licensure, the certification, the prior experience, and they do a great job in the interview, and the resume is stellar. But you don't know unless you ask the right questions. Are they going to be a good employee? Because applicants these days, there's so many resources on the internet, and if a company has outplaced someone, they're providing job coaching. So in many ways, a candidate can have the upper hand on the company. If they're very good, they're articulate, they can communicate, they can go in and snow an interviewer who's unprepared, someone who hasn't done it very much, they haven't taken the time to plan for the interview process. They can end up hiring someone that does really good in the interview process because they know all the right answers to the typical questions. So I think it's really imperative on the interviewers to do their homework, take time to plan for it, and look for fit. And there's some ways they can do that.
How do you do that? I mean, what are you looking for?
Well, the techniques that I like to use is something called behavior-based interviewing. And a good example of that is we know in our organization the types of tasks and duties this person's going to be doing, the types of decisions they'll be making, the types of situations they'll encounter. And it's real easy to have minimum qualifications in terms of education and experience, and we can check those off the list. But if they're dealing with our customers and they're dealing with angry customers perhaps, or high dollar sales, we need to know that they're going to make good decisions, that they're going to be a good fit for our culture. They're not going to come and go, and that they're going to be a good fit for that department or that leadership style down there, because we all have preferences in terms of leadership style, how we like to get feedback and how much direction we like to take, how autonomous we want to be. So what behavioral-based interviewing does, it helps you to sit and think about those tasks, duties, situations someone's going to encounter, and you create what-if scenarios. For example, tell me about a time when you dealt with this situation. Tell me what the issue was and how you dealt with it. And then a follow-up question may be, give me another example, so that you're really making them prove to you that they've got experience doing the sorts of things that they're going to be doing on your job and dealing with the type of situations and making the sort of decisions that you're going to be having them face. A perfect example, we were interviewing for a customer service representative, and we had the absolute best candidate in front of us. The resume was outstanding, had many, many years of experience in great organizations, and we made a lot of assumptions on the fact that they knew customer service. They could take care of anybody.
Mm-hmm.
So they did a great job presenting all the things they could do and had done in that role, until we asked the question, tell us about a time when you dealt with an angry customer. What was the situation? What did you do? And they went on and on about how proud they were that they won the battle for the employer.
They told them off and read them off.
Told them off, showed them the door, and they were so
Right.
proud because they caused the company not to have to give a refund. Basically showed them the door and won the battle. And of course, my client was horrified because in their business, the customer is king. The customer is never wrong. So had that question not been asked, we would have hired someone that had great technical skills, perhaps, in terms of processes and things of that nature, but their judgment in that situation is not consistent with this employer's philosophy of customer service. And maybe it was how they were trained. Maybe that was the philosophy of their current employer, that the customer's not king. But in this business, you've got to make sure that they've got good judgment.
So you're getting past that piece of paper,
yes,
and that sharp face in front of you. We're assuming that candidate, our imaginary candidate, is Bethany over here, just the perfect person sitting in front of us. But you're trying to get to temperament, I guess, is
yes,
what I'm hearing
indeed.
you saying.
Temperament, judgment, character.
How can you really tell that in just a short interview, though?
Well, I think it can be as long as it needs to be. I think you certainly need to make sure you're getting the technical skills, the education, experience, making sure they're meeting the minimum qualifications. But then really, the bulk of it should be spent on these other things. Just example, behavioral-based interview question after the other that focuses on all elements of the position. And the other mistake I see a lot of interviewers make is that they do all the talking. Mm-hmm. They're not good at it. They're not comfortable with it. And so often, if we're nervous, we'll fill the void with talk. And the statistics say, and the best interview practice is, the interviewer should be talking maybe 20% of the time, 30% of the time at the most. You're not really trying to sell the organization at that point. You're looking to see if this person is someone who meets our technical requirements and they're a good fit for our culture, and see if they move to the next step in the process. And so you're not really selling at that point. You're buying.
So I guess if you're doing all the talking, that's less time you have to get information out of them, which is
Absolutely.
the point of doing an interview. I told somebody the other day, because we've gone through a round of interviews here, you could create a reality show of the way people show up and what they do in interviews. I'm telling you, if you had a disclaimer, have a little hidden camera, just ask people generic questions, it's amazing what people do and say during the nervousness of an interview. And I guess it could go both ways.
Absolutely. One example we had recently, someone showed up for an interview with their Bluetooth on their ear. And it was very distracting.
Right.
And you wonder, okay, what's going to happen when it rings? Are they going to take the call? And maybe they didn't realize it, but, if you're going for an interview, you're selling yourself.
Sure.
And you need to be prepared for that. And I think, with many companies moving to corporate casual attire, I think we've often taken a casual attitude about things in the workplace, and it often shows up in performance. But if you're looking for a job, you need to go dressed in business attire.
Sure.
Dress for the best, and be prepared. Do your research on the company, and be able to tell them why you're interested in the position. And the other mistake that I see a lot of interviewers make, they never ask for the position. I think it's important. If you have an interest in the position, ask for it in the interview process.
We have people come through here all the time, and they really don't know what they're interviewing for. I mean, you applied, we got your resume, you were good enough to call you in, and they really don't understand our business or the job itself and don't even know to ask. And you'll ask them that question, and it amazes me people that'll do that.
It happens all the time. And it really makes you wonder, do they want to work? But certainly that's, one interview question is all that's needed in that interview. I mean,
Sure.
If they didn't show up
You're
appropriately addressed, you're done. They're
Yeah.
not going to be a fit.
If you're interviewing and you see it right off the bat, the resume's okay and that's why they got there, but they walk in and instantly you get the feeling this person would never fit in our company culture or whatnot, or like you said, they're inappropriately dressed or doing something distracting. How quickly do you just cut it off and move along, or do you just do the courtesy and sit there and keep asking them
No,
questions?
I think you're courteous to them because, they're all potential customers at some point.
Sure.
And they all, every company has a brand and a reputation, whether they like it or not. And so you never want to make an enemy in that situation. So I think you give them a courtesy 5 or 10 minutes, ask them a few basic questions. Tell me about yourself. What do you know about the company? Why are you interested in the position? And then basically, this is just a very short screening interview. We'll be selecting folks for the next step. We'll be back in touch. So I wouldn't invest a lot of time. If you know up front that they're not going to be a fit, I'd just the common courtesies, but that I wouldn't invest a lot of time.
Now I'm going to ask you a totally loaded question, and it's probably something you're struggling with in the modern times. And Bethany's going to chime in, I promise, on this. Is it appropriate to ask them to see their Facebook page, or is it appropriate as an employer to go check that out? Because you will find out things and probably see horrifying things, and people just volunteer too much. Is that even appropriate in this process nowadays?
A lot of organizations do that. There's a lot of problems with it. The EEOC would tell you that it's problematic because you may learn things on Facebook that would be inappropriate to know. You may find out about a disability. You may find out about race and gender and things of that nature that really don't impact their ability to do the job or their being a fit for the organization. There are some organizations, there's been litigation filed over it, and even state laws passed where, as a condition of employment, they required that you friend HR on Facebook or that you friend your supervisor.
Is that legal?
It's not a good practice, and in some states it is illegal because organizations have requested that. And the public outcry was what you can imagine. And so municipalities and states have passed laws that prohibit you from doing that.
Where's that line between what's in their private life and what you are entitled to know before you sign them onto your company and make them part of your team? I mean, where is that line?
Well, and I think, in Alabama, it's not illegal to do that. And the problem you run into is it's not necessarily a legality or an illegality that you've learned something, learn race or gender about the person, because you'll certainly know that in the interview if you do a face-to-face interview. But once you know someone's race or gender, or you know that they have a disability, or you learn perhaps a national origin issue, then the fact that you know that, if the candidate finds out that you know that, then they could say that if they're not hired, then it was because of that information that you learned.
Simply the fact that you've communicated it between each other.
Right.
And that could, whether it was or not, the factor in them not getting the job.
Right.
It's a landmine.
Because when you don't know that information, it's easy to deny it, and it's a perfect defense. We did not know that. But if you know it and perhaps had conversations, and there's emails about it internally, or conversations that were had, all that would come out in some sort of challenge to the employment decision. If they file an EEOC charge and everyone's interviewed and under oath and have to tell the truth, or there's emails that are subpoenaed, I mean, some of that may come out. And so while you say it's not a basis, it could be.
Well, how do you avoid that trap if you're trying to establish citizenship? Maybe you are an employer that you need to make sure that all your employees are American citizens and are appropriately here, because there are implications about race, national origin, and all that with regard to that question.
Right. Well, in terms of national origin or citizenship, I mean, there may be some positions working on federal contracts where it is a requirement to be a citizen, or because of the type of information they'd have access to. But on the employment application, it's legitimate to ask the question, do you have authorization to work in the United States? And on the pre-offer stage, that's really all you need to know, because post-offer, during the orientation onboarding, you'll ask them for those documentations to fill out the I-9 form so that you can go to E-Verify and prove that they are authorized to work in the United States. And if they're not, then you can rescind the offer. So some things you can know, but at the appropriate stage of the interview process. Some things are pre-offer are okay. Some things have to be post-offer.
I know it seems like we're becoming more litigious every year in this society, so that's a factor. But we're also just hypersensitive and have a sense of, I say there's a whole generation with a sense of entitlement out there. I've got 20-year-olds, so I kind of know what people are thinking. Is it just even more dangerous in the HR world right now, hiring and firing, because you're just more likely to wind up in one of these situations if you don't watch them?
It really is. The EEOC, which enforces most of the civil rights and employment rights laws, they advertise their toll-free number. They have offices throughout the country, and their scorecard is often the number of cases they bring, the dollar amounts of settlements, and so they have an interest in proving their value, especially under this administration, to find those charges, ferret them out, and pursue them to some sort of resolution, whether it's mediation between the two parties or some sort of litigation brought by the government. If you're a federal contractor, it's the same thing with the Office of Federal Contract Compliance Programs. They used to deal only with large groups of individuals, class-type challenges of employment discrimination, but they are now spending federal money to go out into the communities, work with community action organizations, and educate workers about their rights. And so the stakes are higher. People are there's a heightened awareness of employment rights, and not that people shouldn't know. They should know, and every employer has to post those posters in their workplace. So it's not that we're trying to hide it, but there really seems the last few years to be a concerted effort by these federal agencies to go out into the community and find folks for charges. And you can be accused of anything.
So like they did with housing discrimination and other things, do they plant people in there to watch your process, to monitor your process?
I think they do, especially with the federal government, the Office of Federal Contract Compliance Programs. Prior to them auditing a federal contractor, they will do things such as go to the website and pretend to be a disabled person with vision impairment or some sort of access and see how accessible the website is to apply for a position. If they find any obstacles there, they'll come to the building, see if it's accessible with curb cuts and parking spaces and things of that nature. So, yes, I think in some cases they will do that. It's part of an audit. And it reminds me of when the Americans with Disabilities Act was passed. There was a lot of litigation early on with people just driving around looking for organizations, buildings that were not accessible, and they would file charges against that organization when they really had no interest in employment there, had no business there. But it really forced employers to take it seriously and to start implementing those regulations. And I think ultimately it was a good thing, but those sorts of things are really mainstream now.
All right, so here's another whole can of worms along those lines, the disability issue. How far can you go in asking about that, especially if the disability is obvious, if the person rolls in and is visually impaired or something that's observable, they're in a wheelchair or need walking assistance. What things can you say and not say to make sure you can accommodate that person and they can actually do the job?
Well, pre-offer in the interview process, before you've extended an offer, you're limited in what you can ask. If there's an obvious disability, you're going to want to describe the duties to be performed, the essential duties of the position, the things that are core to the position, the reason the position exists. So those essential functions and the minimum qualifications. You should have a written job description so you've got something to go from. Ask them about their ability to do this position. And if they raise an objection or that they express a need for an accommodation, then you go down that path to ask them how they would perform the duty. What sort of accommodations would they need? Perhaps how has this been accommodated on prior positions that they've had? So you can go to a certain extent in that arena. If there's not an obvious disability, you want to avoid any kind of questions that might cause them to disclose a disability. And sometimes candidates, that are savvy, they may be aware of a disability, and an option to perhaps better their odds of being selected, they might disclose a disability situation, knowing that you can't ask about it, but they'll disclose it anyway. Mm-hmm. In that situation, you want to kind of steer them back on track. If they don't have an obvious disability that you need to discuss, get them back on track. That's not really germane to the topic. That's not really something we need to talk about. We're really focused on your ability to do the position and get them back on track on that.
How do you handle mental health issues? I mean, you're not going to know that if they don't disclose that. Now, I know that's a powder keg for you, but
it is.
What do you do if you wind up in that situation and then you discover something where somebody could be? Look, let's just be honest. We just dealt with a very horrifying story this week, which was really an HR story. You had a person with mental health issues on a government facility, and all that happened. How do you head that off up front?
Well, if it doesn't come up in the interview process and there's no reason to suspect they have it, you don't know. I mean, you wouldn't probe around those sorts of mental issues. But if they bring it up, I mean, there may be, and not everything's going to be a disability. Under the Americans with Disabilities Act, the definition of a disability is very specific, but at the same time, it's very broad. If someone's considered to be disabled, they're covered by the Act. So one thing you don't want to do is to consider someone disabled, or because they associate with someone who may have those issues, that you assume that they're going to be impaired in some way. So you want to avoid any sort of assumptions of disability. But if it doesn't come up in the interview process and allow you to probe around, again, the ability to do the position, often people want to ask about prescription drugs being taken. And, that's taboo because it could, certain drugs treat certain ailments, and the fact that you may know that, it's hard to defend if you don't select them. And that had anything at all to do with your reasoning. You now know that. It's common knowledge. So it's hard to defend against it.
So you probably don't even have time to answer this question, but you've been doing this 22 years based on your bio here. And how has this whole arena, just hiring, we haven't even gotten into firing, but how has hiring changed over the last 22 years?
Well, I think the social media has really changed a lot. How we recruit has dramatically changed. We used to run advertisements in the newspapers and spend fortunes to do that. And that's not so much anymore. You see the newspapers really shrinking in that arena. Social media, LinkedIn is probably one of the best recruiting tools we use. So if you're looking for a position, make sure you have a really good presence there. And if you don't know how to use LinkedIn in recruiting, do that. They have special packages that are just for recruiters, and they guarantee responses from the candidates. So it is fertile. I'd say 60, 70% sometimes of the candidates that we source are through that means.
So you endorse LinkedIn, so to speak. Right. I've avoided it. I keep getting LinkedIn requests. I got too much social media going. I don't have time to maintain another connectivity. Right. But I'm probably, I guess on a personal level, you hurt yourself to not be in that loop.
Yeah, because it's not only your network, but it's all the people that you're connected to. And so
sure.
It can have business advantages, not just in the employment arena, but leveraging leads for businesses. But it's really a great network for how to get introduced to people who can introduce you to someone else that you need to meet.
Well, Charles, in an economy where we always talking about jobs, everybody's talking about jobs. It's been a wealth of information. We've got a lot more to talk about tonight. Look, our friends at First Partners Bank presented having you here and pouring out all this wisdom on us here tonight. Bethany, if can you hang around? We talk some more when we come back from the break.
Sure can.
Because they've got First Partners has an interesting event. Are you participating in that one coming up, Charles? Coming up on the 24th, and I think it's a lunch event where you can go and learn and network with other small businesses and others that are doing business, particularly in the Birmingham area. So we're going to be bringing you these business-oriented sort of presentations on Thursday nights. We hope you find them educational and help you find some solutions for some of this stuff. Charles, how can folks reach you if they need some of your advice on some of these things?
The website is www.hrmasap.com.
Human Resource Manager.
Right.
That's a pretty direct title.
We are what we do.
Pretty much tells people what you do.
That's right.
Charles Wilkinson, I appreciate your time tonight, man.
Thank you.
Brought to you by our good friends at First Partners Bank. We're going to do the bottom of the hour. We're going to come back and talk to Bethany Meadows, and she's going to talk about her business and this upcoming conference and all the stuff that she's into as well. 6:30, Superstation 101 WYDE live, local FM radio. Back in a minute.
My name is Elam Holly, and I am the CEO of First Partners Bank, member FDIC. While some might think it's unusual for a bank to step outside the box and provide resources for business owners, we believe that being a great bank is just the beginning. We want to be your banking partner in life and in business, for now and the journey ahead. Because your story is our story. Our success is tied to yours. We call it partnership banking, and it's the core of our mission. In fact, at First Partners Bank, we have developed an entire program of resources designed to help small business owners grow and succeed. They include the Tools for Success blog, the Small Business Workshop series, Tools for Success magazine, and of course the Tools for Success radio program. Each of our Tools for Success initiatives are free and available to every business owner in the community, whether or not they're a customer of First Partners Bank. We've even set up a special website just for Tools for Success at yousucceed-wesucceed.com, where you can learn more about all the resources available for business owners. While you're there, you can subscribe to the blog, check the schedule for our next workshop learning event, browse through the virtual copy of the latest issue of the magazine, or listen to a podcast of the radio program. We are bankers, but first and foremost, we are partners. Partners with our customers, partners with our community. Our philosophy, our mission, our purpose is simple. When you succeed, we succeed. Call us today at 205-822-5500 and let us show you what partnership banking is all about.
Superstation 101 WYDE. Welcome back into the show. Thursday night. AJ throwing down the on the wheels of steel up in there. We don't have wheels of steel anymore, and I miss wheels of steel. Do you not miss wheels of steel?
Yes, I do.
Actual turntables?
Yes. I wish I did have some turntables up in there.
It's just computers and buttons nowadays.
AJ pushing the buttons, playing all the hottest hits.
That doesn't even sound the same.
On Superstation 101.
AJ in there on the mouse. It just doesn't sound the same. Hey, we're going to continue with our business segment. I'm stretching this out tonight because Bethany Meadows is also here. Now, Bethany's put a lot of this stuff together, but she's a owner of her own business. But before we do anything, Bethany, let's talk about First Partners event that's coming up just in a few days from now on the 24th down in Homewood.
Yes, Sharpen Your Tools Roundtable event. And this one's a little bit different than ones that we've done in the past where we've done workshop learning type events. This one, we're bringing in some experts in different topics, and we're going to split the group into smaller sizes so they can spend a more intimate one-on-one time with that expert and rotate from expert to expert.
So what kind of experts? What are you doing?
Well, we have a CPA who it's Al Murray with Warren Averett will be there.
Okay.
He'll be able to talk about some of the changes in regulation and things that small business should be preparing for now for the next tax year. Charles Wilkinson will be there talking about HR issues.
The guy we just had on.
Charles was just here.
Charles was a talker too. I like Charles. I mean, we have to get him back. When we bring him back, I want to talk about firing people.
He's a radio natural for sure.
Yeah, I'm telling you.
I'll be there and talking about marketing.
Okay.
And I'm not sure 100% who's going to be there for public relations, but we'll have someone there to talk about how you can use media contacts to promote your business.
Good deal.
And we will also have someone there talking about SBA lending.
And this is free. I mean,
it's free.
But you can sign up. What, you sign up for lunch? Did I understand, or is that still part of it?
If you register by tomorrow,
right,
then we'll have lunch there for you.
Okay.
But anybody can come. You can brown bag it if you want, and
so it's 11:30 Homewood Library in the big auditorium over on one side. And really, the point of it is what? Just to create a networking environment, reach out to the community. Obviously, First Partners is going to sponsor it, so they're going to meet some business owners, and it just kind of works for everybody.
That's right. It really goes in with what First Partners Bank is trying to do in the community by providing free resources. I mean, their tagline is "You succeed, we succeed."
Mm-hmm.
So they really go with that. I mean, they provide a blog on online resources for business owners, and they have a print publication that they print twice a year.
Tools for Success.
Tools for Success
And you
magazine.
put that together, and it's awesome looking. It's very well done. Very well done.
We work really hard on it. And the thing is about it, sometimes you'll see publications out in the marketplace that somebody put out, and it's really pitchy. It's really a big advertorial for that company. And this magazine is not that at all.
It's got useful stuff in it.
It's useful, yeah. And you can pick those up at most of the libraries in town, chambers of commerce, of course, at the bank. They have them at the branch. So, and some of the area businesses in town have them. Some of the golf retailers and country clubs.
I just like the concept of that because people, I know in my business ventures in the past, you're just always hungry to find out and learn from other people that have done it. Maybe you can't always afford all the experts right off the bat, but you need information, and that environment, that magazine, this radio version of that magazine, helping people learn some things like this. I don't know. I think it's very helpful because I still believe on a personal level that this country is it still provides the greatest opportunities in the world. We get down about the economy. We sort of get down about politics sometimes, but there is money to be made and success to be had in all kinds of businesses. And that kind of stuff gets me excited when I see young folks and other folks get out there and give it a try.
Well, small business owners are some of the hardworking folks out there.
Yeah.
I mean, they put in long hours, they sacrifice, they risk financially a great deal. Sometimes it doesn't work out, and sometimes it does. So, I mean, I'm an entrepreneur myself. I started my first business when I was 10.
10 years old. What did you do at 10? What did you do at 10?
I had a business called Bethany's Roadrunner Service.
Okay.
And all the elderly folks in the neighborhood would call my house, and I would run over there with my little bike with a basket on the front, and they would give me money and a shopping list, and I would go pick up stuff for them.
You go do stuff.
Yeah.
You just Bethany's Roadrunner Service.
I like that.
That's right.
We all did. I picked up pecans out of my grandfather's yard and sold them out on the street, like I had a little pecan. Did you do anything like that?
Oh, I cut grass.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I mean,
I mowed grass when I was
go
growing
around
up.
the neighborhood and get you some. And it starts when you're young. Do you think people just get it kind of crushed out of them over time? Sometimes people just give up that hope. Everybody, I think, in them wants to try something. A lot of people do.
I think so. I think when you're young, you're more willing to take risks. And
Sure.
as you get older, maybe not so much. You have mortgage and family and, you know.
Because when you're running
gets a little
Bethany's bike business,
scarier.
like, hey, if this crashes, I still got a place to stay tonight.
That's right.
So
And,
you now run Vertical Solutions Media, and you guys do PR, marketing, and all that stuff.
And, yes, social media.
Tell me about
yes.
that business. How'd you get that going?
Well, basically, I had a pretty long background in marketing in the corporate level for an insurance company.
Working with somebody else.
Working for somebody else. And I think that's useful before you start a business to kind of cut your teeth and pay your dues
Sure.
and learn what it's all about. And we did some pretty specialty, niche-y kind of things, which I think was good for me because it made me see things differently, not just in the box, but to go outside the box. Everybody thinks of insurance as kind of boring and square, but we did things like common carrier AD&D coverage on Latin American visas. I know, right?
Everybody's got to have a niche, though. I mean, who would think of that? Who would think of that?
Who would think of that?
Yep.
So when I left the insurance company, I actually started an insurance agency. So that was another business.
Oh, yeah.
And we did, of course, specialty niche products for the K through 12 market. So one of my biggest success stories in that business was going to the camp market. So actually camps out there, $5,000 to $8,000. You can send your child on this bike expedition through Europe, or maybe a weight loss camp up in the Poconos, or a snowboarding camp out in California. And it's somewhat risky because there's no refund. So if your child, breaks their toe on the first leg of the European tour and has to come home, you're kind of out of luck. So I actually crafted a product that didn't exist to cover that.
Insurance
so you would
for
get
that.
a refund. Yeah. And so I sold it through the camps. They would, of course, they wanted it because it was a big PR problem if something happened and they wouldn't give the money back.
I can't imagine how you figured out what that risk level was. Had to do the
There
actuarial
are
on that. and figure
insurance companies who do.
That just do it for you?
They do that kind of thing.
What are the
So,
odds,
Yeah. Well, I mean, you can insure your legs if you're Marilyn Monroe or
This is
whatever.
true. I got a buddy doing a concert this weekend. I'm going to help him out with it this weekend. It's a big kind of Southern rock deal over in Georgia. Rain is in the forecast, and I sent him a thing. He goes, I'm not worried about it. I got rain insurance. I was like, I didn't know rain insurance, and so he's got it covered.
Well, at those sporting events where they do the half-court shots for a zillion bucks or a car or whatever, that's insurance.
So the insurance pays
So
the
the
claim if
event
somebody hits
maybe
the shot.
paid $700-800, and if they hit the
Wow.
shot, the insurance company pays it out. Yeah.
But all that transitioned into this Vertical Solutions Media and what you're doing now.
Well, actually, what happened in there was some personal stuff.
Sure.
We adopted a sibling group of 4 children. I had one biological child.
Wow.
And
4.
4, yeah. And because of some special needs they had, I was already homeschooling my
Outstanding.
biological daughter. And so when they came on board, I just felt like it was a good fit for them to continue to be homeschooling. It was a safe environment for them with some of the things that they were dealing with. So I continued to, I had the insurance agency at the time, so I actually continued to homeschool 5 children and work that agency.
I'm
out of
tired
my
already
house.
just hearing
I know.
about it.
So you can imagine, if you can picture this, my dining room table with all these kids with their school books and stuff all
And you're
over the
running an
table,
insurance company.
and I got a headset on, and then when the phone
Taking
rings,
claims.
some phone rings, quiet everyone,
Amazing.
and I'd answer the phone, real professional, and I'd say, "Let me look it up on my computer," and I'd open my notebook. I mean, it was like that.
Good for you.
Yeah. So, and I get off the phone, I tell the kids how much I just made off that one phone call, and we'd high five and go back to
And then
to
they start
school.
yelling and screaming finally. But
Yeah.
they were disciplined enough to be quiet and let you do that.
Yes.
It's amazing.
They are great kids. And that was part of my decision when our family moved to Alabama. Instead of moving the business, I decided to sell it.
And start
to
over.
Focus on the kids full time. And I did that for several years. And then I became a single mom. And so then I was responsible for financially caring for this big family. I needed to go back to work. So I actually took a position with a creative agency for a period of time. I was there 10 months, and that's not a good fit
Time to
for
do
me.
your own thing. I've been there,
That's not
been
for
there
me.
before too. You know it when you know it.
Yeah.
So, and I know we're going to run short on time here, but Vertical Solutions, you've got. I know you've got clients all over town. You do great work for them, and I've seen some of the work you do with some of these folks.
Thank you.
I mean, you're growing. You just moved into a new office, and you're hiring people and all
We
that.
did. Well, my youngest daughter graduated 2.5 years ago from high school, so I have my last one out.
So you got time
out
now.
of the nest, yeah. So I was
I'm
able
there.
to really focus on the business and.
Now, are you
and
still
grow
looking
it over the last few years.
Before we have to hit this break, are you still looking to hire? I heard you say you're looking for part-time or something like that.
I am looking
Did you
for
feel
a
that?
part-time web and graphic design professional.
Okay.
And hours are flexible, and we're very family-friendly that way. So, if somebody wants to be working while their kids are in school, we're a good fit for that.
I bet your phone will ring when you get home. Throw that number out before we take the break.
But my number?
Yeah.
936-3174.
There it is, 936-3174. How about that? We're going to take a quick break because we were pushing it. AJ's making the signal in there. Bethany Meadows, we appreciate you, and Vertical Solutions Media and all that you do.
Thanks for having us on.
Back here in a minute.
Leland Live on Superstation 101.